Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff. Guess who's here? It's Richard
Hello.
and Michael.
Howdy.
What a couple. They've got so much power. The power to podcast. They are a power couple. And then the third wheel.
Jeff is so desperate to lay the cards on the table for this. How can I set this up? How can I
set this up? How can I put it out there in a clever way? But I'll just going to reveal what it is. Our topic is celebrity power couples, not obscure power couples like Marty and Lisa, who run the fishing tackle store down by the marina.
They got
so much power over what gets caught in the lake. But these are celebrity power couples, and this is, I guess, our Valentine's Day, kind of approaching Valentine's Day episode. So
it's pretty gauche to put out an episode on Valentine's Day about Valentine's, because what are you going to give that to someone as a podcast?
Yeah, no, we're
going to present. What do you got? Chocolates, or you got this crappy podcast by these three losers?
By Valentine's Day, we're drunk for St. Patrick's Day, so we're going to be powering into.
Just roll right into it, yeah.
So I'm just going to say that Richard should start because Michael started last week.
All right. So my first choice in this is Spencer Tracy and Katherine Hepburn.
Oh, wow. That's kind of unorthodox, right?
Yeah, because they never actually were married.
Yeah,
and
to each other.
Well, they not to each other. That's
yeah.
That's true. Basically carried on a 30-year-long affair that everybody in Hollywood knew about, and everyone everywhere kind of figured out.
Yeah.
But Spencer Tracy refused to divorce his wife because he was a devout Catholic. Couldn't be too devout because he was cheating on his wife, I suppose. Yeah. But still.
Yeah.
They had this amazing chemistry in their movies. They made 9 movies together. And you can just see the chemistry that they have with each other in those movies. And that doesn't always translate. It's not just, look at Ben Affleck and any of his people, and Jennifer Lopez in Geely. Mm-hmm. No chemistry whatsoever in that movie.
Yeah.
So it's not a given that the passion and the chemistry that a couple has is going to translate to the movies they make together.
Yeah.
But boy, that certainly wasn't the problem with Spencer Tracy and Katherine Hepburn. Amazing chemistry together.
Mm-hmm. Do you I always feel like they were definitely not each in the mold of what they were, kind of the job description. Like Katherine Hepburn was definitely not unlike Jean Arthur, and that she was kind of a sassy, holding her own trouser wearing kind of gal in an era in which there were bombshells and Lana Turner, kind of actresses. And Spencer Tracy had a little bit. It's not like he was Cary Grant. He had a little bit more of kind of a everyman kind of nature to him. So it almost seems like there are two people who broke their own mold.
Yeah, definitely iconoclasts in a lot of ways. Definitely two people who, I guess, were ridiculously famous in a different era of being ridiculously famous.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine a scenario where two major stars who keep acting in movies together could carry on an affair for 30 years today.
Yeah.
TMZ is pretty much all over any relationship that starts up, sometimes before the people who are in the relationship know. Basically.
Yeah.
And so it just would be impossible for that type of relationship to exist today.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, there was a, I think it was the movie Hail Caesar that depicted the efforts of a Hollywood fixer, Eddie Mannix. And Hollywood at that time was beginning to be scrutinized. I think Hollywood had a good 2 or 3 decades of a time when it was this kind of, it was so far removed from New York and from a lot of these major metropolises, and so those people who were making the product, the factory where all the stuff was made and the people in it were so far away from everything else that it took a lot of energy for gossip and information to get out and get out to the world. But then radio and electronic media started existing, and people's interest in Hollywood via these photoplays and all these cool magazines started growing. So all of a sudden there were all these cameras pointed on all these people, and we know that athletes and people like Babe Ruth and and not that they necessarily did bad things, but even like Ted Williams, could do things back then that you couldn't do today for sure. But it
Yeah.
almost seems like there was a time where Hollywood was this kind of closed system. Um, and then when I think with the Hays Code and all that stuff emerging, where people were scrutinizing what they were doing, that's when stuff got people were looking into the windows and under the mattresses for sketchy behavior.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything about when you say the power there, is the power their chemistry, or is the power but they were both phenomenal performers? Because they were for sure.
Both.
Both? Okay.
Both, I think. I mean, in their eras, they were probably certainly Katherine Hepburn was the most famous
Mhm.
actress of that era, I would say.
Yeah.
And Spencer Tracy, if he wasn't number one, he was certainly in the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it definitely has that kind of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, like
Mhm.
two incredibly famous people who I imagine probably that was something that you bond over,
Yeah.
just the burden of being famous
Yeah, for sure.
and all of the issues that you go with it.
Mhm.
Maybe Spencer Tracy couldn't his couldn't relate to with his actual wife, who
Mhm.
is just like a housewife type.
Mhm.
And so maybe there's an element of that to their relationship as well.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Mike, what's your first?
My first choice is Beyonce and Jay-Z. I
Oh,
thought I
nice.
was really kind of honed in or obsessed with today, or when we started talking about this subject of like the word power in power couple. Originally, it was like Hollywood power couple, then it became celebrity power couple, and but the word power was always in there, power couple. And I thought of like, who are the people that like either have like the most influence, at least within like an entertainment world, or have like the seemingly endless supply of people that um, will cheer for them or back them or something. And I thought of like, or whatever project that they want to get done can get done. And I thought, well, gosh, Beyonce certainly is the most popular female artist currently
Mhm.
living, or maybe if not number one, number two, or 1A and 1B with maybe like, I
Mhm.
don't know, Taylor Swift or something. But I don't really think of Taylor Swift as like all that powerful. But she seems like she is just a person that like just gets shit done. She does things come out and they're huge. Same thing
Mhm.
with like Jay-Z. I mean, them together, I think, I don't know if he is a billionaire in and of himself, but certainly together they are billionaire or
Mhm.
billionaires or whatever.
Yeah.
And whether it is his, kind of like life within um, making rap albums or producing rap albums or doing, uh, uh, owning being a kind of partial owner of like the Brooklyn Nets, or
Mhm.
like these are just two very wealthy, powerful, connected people who have the ears of, I'm sure, world leaders and anybody in any different part of the industry, whatever industry it is. And it's like, you know, it's wild to think of where both of them have come from. Like he's, started out as just a rapper, and she started out as like one of the third parts of Destiny's Child.
Mhm.
Like her big like multimedia career was like, oh yeah, she was like the lead girl in Austin Powers and Goldmember. And then
Mhm.
suddenly she's just like, oh yeah, she's just a one name. She went from being Beyonce Knowles to being just Beyonce. And I don't know. There's just something about these two as people that can just do whatever they want. I don't know.
Yeah.
Within the entertainment world, I think is fascinating and seemingly powerful. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I think of for sure that that's a pretty great example. I'm trying to think of anybody else in the world of music who's a couple like that, who has that equal. It seems like she's kind of eclipsed him somewhat, but I think he's more kind of in the business and behind the scenes. Was he like a label executive for a while? Wasn't he? I forget.
Uh, yeah. Which one? Is it
Columbia?
Rockefeller? I'd have to look it up, but I
Is it
know
Yeah.
that
Rock Nation?
He was.
he's this is it speaks to my ignorance specifically, but he has been involved with like everything, like, and bringing up producing albums for people that have sold hundreds of
Mhm.
millions of copies of albums.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when Beyonce's sister started whomping away on Jay-Z in an elevator after a Met Gala one time?
No.
That was fun. That was a big deal. That was back in, like, I don't know,
Hmm.
2014. I'm looking up right now.
I
And
think it's
yeah,
go ahead.
it was just this grainy elevator footage of them getting in an elevator and her starting to yell at him, and then her starting to beat the crap out of Jay-Z as Jay-Z like kind of like cowers in the corner.
Hmm.
And I think that's a part of a lot of celebrity relationships, is that
Getting
sort
beat
of
up in an elevator.
getting beat up in an elevator. Everyone has done. I mean, that could be any relationship though. Who among
Yeah.
us hasn't?
Yes.
No,
It
the
might be
whole
might be an escalator. It might be a
a
moving
moving
sidewalk at the
walkway,
airport.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I no, and they've never really exactly said what the fight was about, but there's always been the assumption that maybe he was flirting with someone, or it was something inappropriate was happening with a female that Solange was
Hmm.
very upset about.
Yes.
And there's that element of celebrity power couples where it's like there's almost this tension of like how long can they last together
Yeah.
before somebody's going to fuck this thing up.
Hmm.
And that was just, a pretty, I mean, because everyone fights, but everyone doesn't have their wife's sister whomping. Maybe they do. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
I'm
would imagine that happens a lot in the South, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm just glad that Solange took a page out of Andy Capp um, to
Yes.
to use the handbag as a weapon.
I thought it was weird that she pulled a rolling pin out of her
Yeah.
purse at the Met Gala. I don't know what she had a rolling pin for, but
Yeah.
it was fortunate.
That's fortunate. Okay. All right. Winfield, you second.
No.
No,
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
false.
Richard, you're second. Sorry, dudes.
False.
False.
My second choice is WNBA superstar Sue Bird and
Oh.
U.S. women's national soccer team legend Megan Rapinoe,
Oh, wow.
a true sports power couple.
Okay.
Um, Sue Bird, who is maybe the greatest WNBA player of all time, who has been playing for like, I don't know, 20 years at this point, and still going strong. I should add. And then Megan Rapinoe, who whether or not she's the best women's soccer player in the world, I would argue she is the most famous
Hmm.
women's soccer player. She is maybe the one female soccer player that the average person can name, even if they don't follow the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, having them as a couple, it's a reminder that yes, we still have a long ways to go in terms of equality and justice and rights for people of different sexualities. But the fact that they have started to become this kind of beloved couple in the world of sports, they do photo shoots together and then videos and just everything that you would expect other power couples to do. It's just not seen as that much of a big deal anymore. versus a handful of years ago when female sports athletes were leagues and agents and coaches and whoever else were desperate to keep these women in the closet.
Hmm.
It was just this, you're going to ruin your career if you come out of the closet. You'll never get an endorsement deal. You'll never, you know, it's going to be ruinous for you.
Mhm.
And we've advanced past that to some extent. And again, there is a lot of work to do. It helps when you're the best basketball player of all time and the most famous women's soccer player of recent times.
Mhm.
Certainly that gives you a little bit more leeway than if you were just sort of an average player on an average team somewhere. But I
Did
think
they
it makes me feel like there is progress that we're making and that there's some
Mhm.
light at the end of the tunnel.
So was it Megan Rapinoe was chosen? Victoria's Secret got rid of its angels and brought on Megan Rapinoe.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
here's a person who's making change. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought about her as a selection for our Mount Rushmore of Cool episode that we did last week.
Hmm.
Mhm. Do power couples cancel each other out, or do they? Is this synergy? Disney doesn't own that. Is there synergy in this relationship? Do you think, like when they come together, do they? Now, from what you're talking, the 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 observation that these two are um, are claiming their right to have an open and healthy and visible relationship um, is powerful in itself. Is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Um, but is that a function of their individual prowess on in sports or their individual trying to figure out if in any of these cases does 1 + 1 equals more than two here?
Yeah,
I don't know what. Yeah,
I think with them they do.
yeah.
Um and I think that they're kind of been in a position where the last couple of years has kind of been since they went public with their relationship
Hmm.
and have stepped out as a couple.
Yeah.
You know, they've been able to take whatever level of individual fame that they had, certainly with Sue Bird, I would say, more than Megan Rapinoe, who was already pretty damn famous to begin with.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of elevated both of their statuses.
Yeah. I always think like I remember Heidi Klum and Seal, two two huge stars in
Hmm.
two different, both in entertainment, I guess. But I remember thinking, do either of their do they have a crossover between their fans? Like maybe it's a soccer mom in the car singing "Kiss from a Rose," or whatever.
Right.
What's the crossover? What do they do for each other? Does it help? I don't know. All right. Okay. This is Winfield's second.
My second choice is a brief power couple for 1 year:
Oh.
Paul Simon and Carrie Fisher.
Oh wow.
Maybe it
Yeah.
be, it's a one of those weird kind of marriages, love affair type things that
Hmm.
kind of flash in the pan, kind of turns into just like a lifelong friendship relationship thing. But maybe you think you're together at this time, and then it's like, you know what? I'm Carrie Fisher, and I'm not going to be in a relationship
Yeah.
with anybody.
Yeah.
Get out of here. But this they kind of first met in like the late '70s, kind of when she started um, filming Star Wars, or shortly after, and started getting into like some. I don't know if they met on the, maybe it was Blues Brothers where they met, but oh no, they met before. I guess they met before that, but they got married in 1983 and lasted a year. And I thought of the couple that, God, I was thinking of a couple that, she was just coming off of Return of the Jedi, and like probably her most, visible physically, but most like, wow, one of the biggest movies, you know, and he was about to make um, not a great album, Hearts and Bones, which we've talked about on
Hmm.
this podcast. But I don't know. I think of them as like, of all the couples on my list, as like, oh, I kind of wish they'd kind of stay together.
Hmm.
Maybe there was nothing necessarily powerful about them, and that kind of goes back against my choice. But like, I don't know. It seems like he's written a whole lot of really good songs about them and about her. And I don't know. Maybe this isn't really going anywhere. Maybe I just like them as a celebrity
That's
couple,
in When
and maybe
Harry
that
Met
was enough for
Sally.
me.
She Carrie Fisher's partnered with Bruno Kirby, and I always imagined that was Paul Simon. That was his kind of on-screen um, proxy, uh, and it was kind of fun to see them together. But yeah, I can see that both of them kind of in the more acerbic and uh, almost critics of their own form that they're inside of. I think, Paul Simon wrote a lot of hits, but he also kind of was always on the kind of the folk and kind of the folky side of rock and the kind of the world beat side of rock. So, and Carrie Fisher was always seeming like, even when she was an ingenue, somebody who was a little bit too smart for the part of just being almost like Katherine Hepburn, like of just being an ingenue. Funny, there's a great podcast, History of Rock and 500 Songs, that talks about Paul Simon dumping Art Garfunkel too. So here was his other big relationship, and um, describing Art Garfunkel as tremendously codependent on
Mm,
Paul Simon, and Paul Simon kind of saying, "Yeah, I'll be the Everly Brothers with you for a while, but what I want to do is be Elvis by myself." So
mm.
um, maybe that's a little bit of the ego that he brought into that relationship with Carrie Fisher. So,
I don't know. Like, I'm thinking about them as, uh, I don't know. Maybe everything just kind of congealed together in like my kind of idealized like couple. Certainly
mhm.
Princess Leia and God, one of my just all time favorite songwriters. Just uh, and singers. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's something that like uh, really speaks to me. Like I didn't really know that they were together until like you kind of hear about it. And you're like, oh, okay, that's she married him.
yeah.
Hmm.
Very.
Did
I
he
mean, I don't. I you know.
did he
Go
go
ahead.
from her to Edie Brickell or something? Weren't they
Yeah,
married
they're
a
still
couple of?
married.
They
They're
are
still
okay.
married. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, Carrie Fisher at that time was she kind of dealing with her heavy drug years around that time, I think.
I think so. A couple years later, she had written postcards from the edge, and I think that kind of dealt with her addiction a little bit, or relationship with her mother.
Yeah. So it's kind of, interesting that you know, they were in a relationship when she was kind of at a low point in a lot of ways. I don't know, I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
And
Is that a short show?
but let's be honest. Yes, it is. Let's be honest, Michael. You looked at the download numbers. You saw that we hadn't talked about Paul Simon in a couple of
Sure.
weeks. Realize that's what really gets the listeners in
That's sweet,
when we
sweet
I
go
had
hashtag.
we go full Simon cast
I
Ryman
had to
as
Simon.
your Paul Simon podcast of record. And
we
so
had
I
to make
appreciate
sure
you doing that.
we had to make sure that we hashtag the Bay Hive, and we had to
Yep.
hashtag the si-
The
the
Simonizers.
Simonizers.
Yeah. The Tracy heads out there.
Yep.
Uh, okay, this is the halftime, and it
Thank
has come
goodness.
to my attention that some people listen to this podcast just for this halftime. So I'm gonna try to make it really poetic and articulate. All right, let me play the hits. Follow us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Some people who have suggested in the past have been on the show. It hasn't happened for 4.5 years. I don't know why I'm still talking about it. But we really want you to share the podcast. This episode is clearly one of our Valentine's Day hits here. So you're probably thinking, oh, crap, it's almost February 14th. What am I going to get my significant other? Maybe you are Megan Rapinoe and you're thinking, what am I going to get Sue for Valentine's Day? Well, you're listening to it. you're going to send them a link from your podcast aggregator of choice to this Mount Rushmore podcast and say, there, are you happy? They were out of tennis bracelets, so I got you this. So that's it.
And if you do that, I will record one video that you can send. Now, keep in mind, it won't be personalized. It's just going to be one video where I say something like, "Dear recipient, the person who sent this to you really loves you." It'll be basically something like that, yada, yada, yada. So hopefully that helps get across the love that you have for your partner.
Perfect. Say it with men, Freddie. If you want to close the deal on an engagement or something like that.
With a generic stock sort of
men, Freddie thing. Okay, so are you happy, world? We're done with the halftime. And oh my God, speaking of halftime, so when's Super Bowl? It would already have happened. Would it already have happened?
No, I think it's still got maybe the week or so after this comes out.
Oh my God, we should do halftime shows. Okay. Richard Manfredi, what is your third choice?
All right, my third choice. A very unlikely power couple. Perhaps as in some ways as mismatched as you possibly could be, at least politically. James Carville and Mary Madeline.
Oh, fun.
That's a great pick, Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know, James Carville was Bill Clinton's chief political strategist during the 1992 campaign. Mary Madeline was one of the chief political strategists for George H.W. Bush during the 1992 campaign. And yet somehow they have managed, despite being on completely opposite ends of the political spectrum, they have managed to keep a relationship and a marriage together for probably going on 30 years now.
Who's that completely horrible woman that worked for Trump?
Conway and her
Kellyanne Conway.
That's right. She and her husband are also, I believe, are similar. Although I don't know if he's really a Democrat. I think that he just hates. Trump.
I think he's one of those like never Trumper Republican-y types.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not quite the same thing. But this is the real deal. You know, dyed in the wool Democrat, dyed in the wool Republican. You know, they very specifically do not talk about work at home, probably because it would piss them each other off so much, whatever they're talking about, whatever they're doing.
Wild.
And I just think it's wild that they've been able to kind of avoid having this spill into their private lives, their personal.
What did you do today? Nothing. What did you do today? Nothing. Okay.
Nothing you need to know about.
We're good.
Yeah. My parents were pretty aligned politically, so that we didn't have those issues. But I had a couple of friends where I'd go over to the house, and if it was politics season, if there was an election going on and a conversation came up around politics, it was like, oh boy, let's go somewhere else, boy, type thing.
It's like if the wolf and the sheepdog clocked out of their cartoon forest and then went home because they're married to each other or something.
Yeah, this is not even taking into account that James Carville looks like a frog.
Yeah. Yeah.
No offense to James Carville.
No.
But he looks like a frog.
Can you change that to some sort of Louisiana Bayou reference? Some sort of alligator.
Yeah.
Because I think that he would more appreciate that.
I need something a little more folksy, you think?
Yeah.
He looks like a frog that's been stuck out there in the swamp too long. Yeah. But I mean, it's just they make it work. I mean, I can't fathom a scenario where I would be able to make it work.
No.
Like if my wife was a hardcore Republican, we would not be husband and wife. As much as I love her and as much as we have other things in common, it would be so fundamentally hard for me to be able to look past that and say, oh, I still think you're a great person, even though you believe in the exact opposite. You have the exact opposite way of thinking than I do about big, important issues. and things
Yeah.
that are just fundamentally make you who you are.
I think it's
Mhm.
almost impossible when you don't listen to the same type of music,
Mm.
Right.
let alone are not part of the same political party, yeah, let alone are major operatives within the same political party, yet are working in opposite campaigns against each other. And I don't know if they were married or dating then when they were both on the campaign trail for their respective candidates. But like, man, like it must be tough when it's like, yeah, I'm going to put some country music on. You're just like, no, why do?
I think Michael raises a good point. Let's hear it from the non-power couples who are just trying not to kill each other out there and making things happen, because that's 99.999% of the couples.
Yeah, they were together while they were working on the Clinton Bush election.
That's
Or
wild.
they'd met about a year ago, the year before the kind of election cycle started.
Well, it almost seems like two trial lawyers who are on opposing sides. You know where your job is, and that's to get your person into the office. And so whether they're innocent or guilty, you're just going to give them the best shot you can. So
It
maybe
feels like
that's the way to look at it.
if this was pitched as a sitcom, two political operatives on opposite sides of the spectrum who find love together, it would make it past the pilot stage because people would watch it and go, "That's not realistic. That can't
Well, there was
happen."
a movie, wasn't there? A movie? I think there was a movie.
Well, there was Primary Colors,
Okay,
but that
okay,
was
that
more
was
about John Travolta
Clinton.
trying to play Bill Clinton. Yeah.
Okay, all right, all right, all right, all right. Winfield, your third is what?
My third choice is Tommy Lee and Pamela
Oh
Anderson,
God,
who have
Boy.
put sex tapes on the map with their.
yeah.
Now, I will say this: like, of the two, I think Pamela Anderson definitely had a more um, interesting career up until that point when the sex tape between them was released. Right? He was
Hmm.
just the drummer from Motley Crue, and by the time that they were together, what 1990, late 90s, um, like, did anybody really care about Tommy Lee? Probably not, right? He was just like some skeezy drummer for Motley Crue, and
Yeah.
she was, the lead on, or one of the leads on, a very popular TV show,
Uh-huh.
and started
The
doing movies.
the most famous TV show in the world at the time.
Yeah, I
Biggest
mean,
show in the
yeah.
world.
Did she start on?
60
Uh,
Minutes. She was commentary on 60 Minutes,
Yeah, she
and
took
she,
over from Andy Rooney, didn't she?
yeah.
she, yes, she's
Yeah,
been all the eye.
you ever have your breast implants kind of shape a little bit funny? Don't you hate it when that happens?
A stack of papers and books.
Baywatch, right? But was she on
I
something?
was thinking of what's the Tim Allen? Wasn't she
Home Improvement,
Home Improvement? I think she was. Was she a Home Improvement
the Tool Time Girl, or
full time
something?
girl?
Okay.
Anyway, she and modeling and Playboy stuff, and kind of a nascent kind of movie career as well. But then this home movie sex tape comes out, and like all of a sudden, like he's a name again, and or for the first time. I don't know. I had never
Yeah.
heard of him really before, and she was kind of, like infamy can make you very famey, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, you know, obviously they had some sense of uh, I don't know. I think infamy is just as kind of it's the no bad press sort of thing. You become famous for whatever you become famous for. Certainly, um, Paris Hilton, I hadn't heard of her before. She had a sex tape, and Kim Kardashian, the same now,
Hmm.
billionaires. I mean, she Paris Hilton was a billionaire before, and Kim Kardashian obviously was very wealthy before anything happened
Hmm.
with her. But that sort of thing leads to, I don't know, so many other open doors. And Pamela Anderson, I believe, and Tommy Lee kind of sued to have the thing uh, removed or not being published, and then they came to a deal where they just realized, oh, there's more money in it So
Yeah.
many people have seen already that there's more money in it, us getting paid for it as
Hmm.
long as it's out there. But I don't know. There is something about that very brief period of time where, like, oh, this was a very famous couple for um, something kind of infamous.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Pam had more dimension to her celebrity. Tommy was just the guy behind the revolving drum kit that we didn't really hear from that much. So
I mean,
that
did
isn't.
he must have gone on to have be a part of so many other different things, maybe a celebrity Big Brother sort of thing, or like a, I don't know, some sort of show on VH1 where he was a person on a thing.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Mr. Manfredi. So
Bef
power would okay, question. Would Tesla and Edison be
Mm.
considered a power couple?
I don't know who the bottom was in that relationship, so it's
Okay,
hard
all
to
right.
tell.
All right.
I just wanted to point out that you were right, Michael. That
Mm.
Pamela Anderson was the first uh, Tool Time girl for the
Okay.
first 2 seasons of the series. I learned that on a home improvement Wikipedia or a home improvement wiki
Oh,
that's
what's it called?
dedicated just to home improvement. Which knowing that there is a home improvement wiki just makes me incredibly sad.
There is
Do
a
they have?
Dean Kane fan site too, probably. Yeah.
Let's make sure we look to find out what the official home improvement wiki. Uh,
I think it's entitled. Oh, 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 oh.
yeah, what is that called? How do you look that up?
How do you
I know that
spell that?
on The Simpsons, it's not dough, but it's like a annoyed grunt.
Yeah.
There must be the Tim Allen version of whatever that is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
monkey noise or whatever.
All right. So my last choice.
Yeah,
Now that to get away from that, as
boy,
far
yeah.
away from home improvement as we can. Not so much a power couple now, even though they're still together, but certainly a power couple in the '80s.
Hmm.
And this is one that is a little bit of a deep cut, but I'm going to stand by it. It's Jane Pauley and Gary Trudeau.
Really?
Yeah, did you know that they've been married for like 30 or 40
No.
years now?
No.
Yeah, they got married in 1980. So Jane Pauley, the host of the Today Show through pretty much all of the 1980s,
Hmm.
one of the most famous TV personalities of her era. And then Gary Trudeau, the creator of the Doonesbury cartoons,
Yeah.
Oh, this
which
is right in line with you, Richard. You're a big Doonesbury head, aren't you?
I used to read a lot of Doonesbury
Yeah.
when I was like in junior high. Used to get the Doonesbury collections out of
Hmm.
the library and keep up
Yeah.
on the comings and goings of Jimmy Thudpucker, Zonker Harris, et cetera, et cetera. But I I love them as a power couple because they've just managed to stay under the radar with it. Jeff, you're somebody who knows a lot of this stuff. You
Yeah, I
didn't
didn't
know
know.
that.
I didn't know.
And Gary Trudeau is somebody who is famously kind of a recluse, or at least
Hmm.
if not a recluse, at least somebody who's not very comfortable being interviewed and giving
Yeah.
interviews and being in the public spotlight.
He's not like Charles Schultz where he's like, shut up,
Yeah, come on, Schultz.
Sparky. Yeah.
Enough with the yeah, I know you created Charlie Brown. We get it.
Yeah.
Chill out. But there is something slightly off topic. There is something weird about how so many of these comics creators are also kind of very particular about their time and particular about being out in the public spotlight.
Oh.
Whether it's
Huh.
Gary Larson or Bill Waterston,
Hmm.
Gary Trudeau, you could kind of go Burke Breathed was
Yeah.
another one who I think didn't do a lot of interviews and things like that.
Yeah.
There is something about like that era of comics people, and maybe that's when comics were starting to be thought of as more than just something that was in the funny papers.
Hmm.
When it was starting, he won a Pulitzer Prize for Doonesbury.
Hmm.
That would be something that was unheard of
Yeah.
before then. So you're starting to get the comics book creator as auteur.
Hmm.
Let me put it this way: nobody involved with Mary Worth has ever said, "I don't do interviews." Put it that way. But then you've got Jane Pauley, who is, like I said, someone that millions of Americans woke up to every morning,
Mm-hmm.
and was just out there, and part of being a daytime talk show host is just sort of making the audience feel like they know you personally, and that they have a slice of you that they feel like they know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that contrast between the two of them, and the
Yeah.
fact that they've been able to make it work for 42 years now.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. I think that's well, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to say this couple, but um, Jamie Lee Curtis and Christopher Guest.
Hmm.
Sure.
Well, it's funny that Christopher Guest is a performer, but I don't think he likes to be in the spotlight that much, and I also think he doesn't even prefer to be anything like himself when he's on in media. So,
I've
what's that?
I've heard that Eugene Levy basically say that if some people have dry humor in real life, Christopher Guest is arid like a desert.
Yeah, yeah, that is interesting. Like, what is it? Is that person ground the other person? Or sometimes are these performers, these TV personalities, hiding something that we don't know, that they're secretly introverts, and then so that cartoonist type person is really a perfect match for them. I don't know. Or is there not room enough for two people who are like TV celebrities in the family, so they have to
Yeah,
pick
I don't know
one
if they're
big?
maybe their relationship wouldn't work if he was more kind of outgoing and
Yeah,
somebody whose face you saw on TV quite a bit and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so the last Winfield is gonna.
My last choice is, maybe seems a little obvious, but like Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, who managed to be two very beautiful people that got together
Yeah.
and just dominated and still continue to weirdly dominate this weird aisle in the grocery store of like tabloid magazines. Like, it's amazing how much content is built around
Uh-huh.
these two people for just being extremely good looking
Yeah.
and like having to have gotten together for a number of years. And
Yeah.
then they broke up, and then still every tabloid,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, conversation seems to be about Brad and Angelina, and then they broke up. And was he going to get back together with Jennifer? And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's wild that there's this weird pull and interest in like celebrity coupledom, and how much that is just this thing that is like, there's just a section of whatever magazine, People magazine, or uh, you know, it's strange when you go onto like, you open up like, your particular web browser or a news platform, you go to like Yahoo News, and you click on sports, and you know what sports is going to be. It's going to be scores, it's going to be stories about the sporting world. Same thing with business. Entertainment has this very strange grasp on what they've determined to be entertainment, which seems to be what movies are coming out, what TV shows are coming out, very little about music, but then also like what celebrity couples are together and doing, and who have they been out with. Like, is that somehow this has just been filtered into what is known as entertainment. And
Yeah.
maybe it goes back to something that you both both of you kind of had talked about early with like the Katherine Hepburn and um, uh, who is
Spencer
the other,
Tracy.
Spencer Tracy, or like this idea of like Hollywood, kind of existing in this desert away from things, and things were kind of, but like, I don't know, the idea of who is dating whom, and that as entertainment news. Who is it entertainment to? It's not. I don't know. It's a very strange thing to have been lumped together. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
couple that, whether they are together or not, are, you know continuously linked for like in perpetuity.
Yeah.
That I don't think that they will ever be like a. They will always be like, it feels like there is going to be like the first line of their Wikipedia entry
Mm-hmm.
for forevermore going forward will be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, Jennifer Aniston once dated, and maybe they
Yeah.
were married. I don't even know. I
Yeah,
have
they were
no
married.
idea.
How do I know
Well,
that? By the way, how do I know that?
yeah,
That speaks to your point. I just these sort of celebrity couplings and power couples, they just sort of, even if you're not someone who reads the tabloids or reads the Entertainment Weekly regularly,
mhm,
somehow it just leaches into pop culture.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
just becomes something that you know, and it's weird.
It's interesting because was he were they kind of the first kind of royalty in TV and film, respectively? Like, what was it about that sticks in? I think all tabloids know if they need to, if they got us, if Bat Boy or whatever Elvis hasn't been peaking that week, then they can go to those too. That's an interesting, and is it
There's
because
something
she's
very
had so many fail, like she's had so many kind of near misses in relationships since then, right?
Yeah.
I think that he is. I don't know. I think that there was. I think them being a very. They hit like I think it was just like they hit the zeitgeist of popular media at the exact right time together. Her with a TV show and him as a movie star, and them being just very attractive people, and then the magic of you know being able to combine their names into one you know into one thing was just like, okay, well, there you go.
Wait, were they Bennifer or who was
Oh, maybe I don't even know. See,
No,
like, look at that.
Bennifer was Ben
Ben
J
Affleck.
Affleck
Lo
and
and
Jennifer Garner, or Jennifer
Oh,
Lopez.
okay,
were they
Um,
anything then?
no, they weren't. They were before portmanteaus existed.
Thank
okay,
you.
okay,
Well, then there you go. I don't even know, and I just assumed. I just assumed that this thing that was about somebody else was actually happened to be about them
yeah,
because of their, you know, celebrity coupledom. And
yeah.
what will happen in 3.5 years if they are ever seen in the same room getting a cup of coffee? That is 7 more years of uh,
Tabloid
pictures,
fodder. Yeah.
tabloid and fodder. It's wild.
Sarah and I saw them at Electric Lotus, the Indian restaurant on Vermont in Los Angeles here. I don't
Wow.
have much really a story about it. It literally
Uh
was, we walked in the door as they were walking out the door. But what I can tell you is they're both really good looking people.
huh.
Man, it just makes you feel small whenever you
Yeah.
see two people like that. It's like, what am I doing?
Well,
I
they're
gotta
good
I gotta
looking.
get a stylist.
Yeah.
I mean, the
I
skincare routine on both of them must be just like amazing.
Yeah, impeccable.
I think okay, so let's rippity wrap it up, but I think there's interesting
Please.
bookends on this because to all of our young listeners, um, Stacy, Mitch, Tina,
Come
um,
Chucky.
on,
Chucky,
the name, it's got to be names like
Trevor,
Janthony.
Janthony, yeah, Jaden, yeah. Um, no, these kids they're named like Facebook, COVID, like that's what these names are. Uh,
Cloud backup. Yeah.
Cloud backup, iPhone. Um, so Spencer, Tracy, and Katherine Hepburn are probably equally as ethereal and outdated as Brad and Jennifer. To
Mm,
like a, do you think like to a 14-year-old who's like, I don't know who, I don't know,
sure.
I don't know what
I
movie
don't
is this.
know. I don't. Certainly. I not that any any young person or anybody really goes into a grocery store anymore. But
Yeah,
like, who are the people that are still on
yeah,
the face the front page of
yeah.
most of these things? It's just this strange
All right, so
couple of names.
the conservative news media is rallying or decrying woke culture, but
Mm,
Richard brought the wokeness. So let's go with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. Let's go with Jane Pauley and Gary Trudeau, and let's go with James Carville and Marion Matlin.
mm.
I guess informed. No, Michael's very informed. And then just because they're the king and queen, uh, Beyonce and Jay-Z. So I hope you guys
Very
aren't mad
good.
at me.
No,
And then just a bonus for Jeff, George Jones and Tammy Wynette.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, all right.
I like that one, Jeff.
Okay, all right, all right.
Not better than any of mine, but I like it.
Oh, geez. Okay,
So
all right. All right. All right. This has been the Mount Rushmore of celebrity power couples. My name is always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
Hi, Michael.